Hello, and welcome to our program, Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the situation of the suffering church around the world. Today, it is my very great privilege to be speaking with Sister Maria. Sister Maria is a St. Paul sister working in China. You will see that we have digitally clouded Sister Maria's face. It is because the situation of Christianity, and particularly Catholics in China, is still difficult. For this reason, to protect Sister Maria, to allow her to continue her work in China, we have taken this measure. Sister Maria, thank you for being with us here today on our program.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Sister Maria, I'd like to ask you a little bit first about your own story, because you were a convert to Christianity. How did you first come to know of God and to know of the Catholic faith?
That was my curiosity. When I was 13 years old, during one school holiday, I was with my friend, and she's a Catholic. So that time she needed to do her first communion. So she went to the catechism. And she asked me, do you want to participate there?
She said, come along with me.
Yeah, come with me. And then in that time, I even didn't know what. So I just go with her. So it was quite...
You didn't know anything about Christianity?
No, I never heard about Jesus, nothing else.
What are your parents, just as a background?
My parents, we don't believe anything. Only my great parents, they are Buddhist.
How is it that you then got... or first encountered the Catholic teaching or the Catholic faith?
That time, I think we have one book, catechism book, only question and answer, about 300 question and answer. But for me, was to get a point for me was they say Jesus loved us so much and Jesus died for us. And I look across, I even don't understand much about that. But I just cannot imagine how a person can love me to die for me, and even my parents love me not to that point, and I think first it was attracted by that, I believe Jesus is a good person and also to believe He is a God, and even I don't understand much about that,
But you were baptized without really knowing very much. I mean, because on this school trip, you were baptized, but you didn't really have an understanding of what it is you were being baptized into.
Yes, but at one point also in that catechism class, they talk about not heaven and hell. The good will go to heaven and hell. But for me, I don't like darkness. From I think it's my nature. Yeah. I just don't. And they say the heaven is light, bright, beautiful. And that attracted me quite a lot. Morning, who is God to me? And at that time, I just said, I want to be in heaven. I want to be in beautiful praise. And that what really attracted me when I was so small, 13 years old.
Yes. And so you became baptized. But then, when was it that you first had a sense of, well, let me ask you first of all, you were baptized, you went back to your parents who knew nothing about what had happened. And you told your parents, or were you needed to inform your parents about the fact that you were baptized? What happened there?
Because that time I only 13 years old, and the father told me, the priest, they say I needed my parents' permission to be baptized. So I asked my father. My father don't have any idea, Then I told him, simply to say, Jesus who is. But my father was not very happy. He said, you follow a God who died on the cross so terribly, And he suggests me to follow my grandparents to believe Buddhist, But I just insist I want to be a Catholic, So in the end, dialogue with my father finally got his permission.
He said okay.
Yes.
But it took your grandmother to help.
Yeah, because I was crying because my father don't give me. He just forget about that, Jesus. So my grandmother went to ask my father, say, just give her permission since she's so little. After she grow up, she will know what she really wanted. So to stop my cry, my father gave me permission.
How was it in school? Did the other students understand what it meant for you to be a Christian? Because you must have been one of the very few Christians in your class, or at least in your school.
In that time, I don't think there's any Catholic or Christian in my class. And in that time also, I don't tell them I am a Catholic, because that time church still have very difficult in China. And we not to have permission to say we are religion, we are Catholic or Christian. No?
Yeah, so you had to hide it.
Yes, I just hide it.
From your classmates, but they knew or they didn't know? They didn't.
But sometimes they know it because, during the day, I need to pray my rosary, to say a prayer, Or sometimes I change a little bit my way. For example, before I will try to not say people bad, but will converse with my friend. When they talk other people's bad things, I will follow them.
Yes.
But in that time, after my baptism, I got a little bit, conscious, try to say good things about others. My friend feel a little bit funny. Why now you don't say these things? So after I just say, I don't want to commit sin anymore, and little by little they pull
it out
yes,
of you.
Yes.
And were they surprised, or did they say, what is this Jesus? Did they ask you?
Yes, but they feel I'm a superstitious person.
Superstitious.
A superstitious person. They said, there's no God. For many of them, they believe there's no God. We come from monkey, all this kind of thing. So for them, it's strange to see I'm a Catholic.
Yes.
But they try to persuade me not to believe anything. They just say, we just to be free is better.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you live this time of your school? Because you couldn't go to Mass. You didn't have a Bible, as you said. You had no religious books. You didn't have a Bible. How did you keep this faith burning in your hearts during the time of your youth?
During the time, I think it's the catechism which give me certain point, which is very keep my heart burning. Especially they talk about heaven and hell, and I didn't know many things teaching about Jesus, but I just would tell myself, in case there is a God, even my friend tell me there is no God, but I tell myself, in case there is a God, have heaven and hell, so in the end I will be lost, So just for that, not sure there is or no between that, but the conscience is tell me maybe there is something. Mm-hmm. So that one just keep me to pray the rosary, and rosary was the only prayer I learned.
Yes.
And I keep every day to recite the rosary, even I don't really know the meaning. Sometimes I feel bored, for so many times just repeating. But to make myself more peace,
it brought peace to your heart to pray the rosary.
Yes.
And it is a catechism, because in the different mysteries, it is a catechism.
Yes.
To follow the rosary.
Yeah. And to know, especially, when I pronounce each mystery,
yes.
And to know, Jesus is like that, he's born or poor, then he suffered for me, and also didn't know many, but that more like a meditation, meditate on each mystery, which give me much, meaning for in that time.
And what happened in your family? Because you came home, your parents, of course, knew you had become a Catholic. How did this impact your family life?
My father, I told you, he don't agree me, But what happened? In one point, he asked me, what did I really learn from that? I show him my catechism book, small one. Then he don't really agree many teaching of catechism, but one point he was really very much was fourth commandments.
Which is obey your mother and your father.
Yes, and he really want me to obey him.
So he used.
Yes, but in a certain way he also used in a non way. For example, he tell me I cannot pray. In that time, because he more, conscious about my study, concerned about my study. But in that time, I must hide my prayer. Usually I cover blanket, inside the blanket, in the bed, I say my rosary.
So you hid yourself?
Yes, yeah, I will promise, anyway, I tell I tell my father, I will not pray. But in my heart, tell me I need to pray, So I hide inside the blanket, and then I say my rosary.
And what about your mother?
My mother, she is quite, not like my father, that strong. But my mother just say, you just be a good, So a good person, that is my mother. If church teach you be good, she will be happy.
And she became a Catholic.
And my mother, in the end, yes, a few years later, and also she became Catholic.
That must have been a great joy for you.
Yes.
What about your vocation? When did you sense first, maybe I have something more than just to be a good person, maybe there's something more than just to be a good Catholic?
Actually, to say, to be a sister was not in my mind, because my whole family, which don't have this kind of tradition. And also, when I was in China that time, I don't see many religious sisters, what they really do, But one point when I was in Singapore, I went to Singapore when I was 17 years old.
You left for studies?
Yeah, for study in Singapore. And in that time was open my mind, because I take once again to insert myself in a catechism class in Singapore.
That must have been actually quite a shock for you, because you came from if I understand, a rural environment where you had priests. Did you see a priest, and how often did you see a priest? And then you come to Singapore, and suddenly you are confronted with churches. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
My first, impression when I in the church in Singapore, I was shocked, because in China 25 years ago, in my place, the priests still, celebrate Mass not facing to us.
How often would you see a priest?
Once a year. In that time, yes, they only come we needed to do a confession and receive Holy Communion just once a year. So when I went to Singapore, first time, to see every Sunday have Mass.
Yeah.
And that is first to see, church is so beautiful.
Yes.
And first time to have experience in a Mass singing. Because in my place that time in China was underground church, we're not able to sing. Yeah. Then the Mass is 11, 12 o'clock midnight. We went there about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, arrived there. Then long queue, all the churches were waiting for confession, because everybody needed to confess, And
there was only once a year.
Yes, 3 hours or 2 hours needed to queue up for confession. After confession, we will have a Mass.
In a house or in an apartment, or how would it be?
Most time in a house or in a factory, depend on the area. But that time I was in the people's house.
So we go back, and you were suddenly in a completely new situation where the church was so beautiful and they're singing, and this must have touched your heart in a very new way.
Yes, and that first things give me, I told myself, in that every Sunday they will have reading, gospel reading, all this. And I say, Jesus taught so many things I didn't know. And first Christmas in Singapore.
Because you only knew about heaven and hell.
Yeah, that catechism book.
So what was it that you were introduced? You were introduced to the love of Jesus, I suppose, in Singapore. Is that right? What was the new teaching that you encountered when you met?
In a new, catechism I attend, they will say God is love, God is mercy. But they more emphasize in that. Even in catechism, the small one book, I learned a little bit, but I almost forgot, because I more focused on heaven and hell, the punishment, of God. So after that, I tried, because the church will give more information about Jesus' teaching. So I really come to know the teaching of Jesus. And in the first Christmas, I bought a Bible for myself as a Christmas gift.
To yourself.
And every day I will commit myself with one chapter, to learn what is Jesus. Then after 1-2 years later, I was proud to be a Catholic. I can tell them, I follow Jesus. Jesus asked me to love people. It's not to, so it's give me a confidence to tell who I am, to introduce. That was
And about it to be a sister, when did that happen and how did that happen? Was there one moment or one person that you said, I want to be a sister?
That was a very nice encounter with one sister. Usually I didn't go to look for order, to be a sister. Just by one case, one time I working in a graphic designer advertisement company. One time the sister came to my office to do some, brochure for their order. Then I received that job, to draw into there. And first things to say, the sister also do so, so beautiful things, for me. And this with also recall my first things, how in China I suffer without any book, the information about our faith, more deeper understanding about faith, So that was for me, I said, it's very good to help people to understand, about God. And for myself, I tell myself, what can I really help people to understand? And I think from my own personal suffering, in China, I'm afraid to tell people I'm Catholic because I don't have much material to help me understand more teaching about Catholic. And I cannot find my own identity in that moment, it seemed to me like that. But after I know it, I say, how proud to be a Catholic, which, made me really happy to be a person which is can serve others, can really think about others. Otherwise, in that time, I think many times I think about myself.
Yes.
But in that time, I feel it's my joy if I can really to introduce also Jesus
to others.
To others.
Yes, yes. I want to talk a little bit about the faith in China.
Yes.
It's different now than it was 25 years ago. How is the faith different today in China? It's more possible to practice the faith. Can you tell us a little bit about Christianity today or Catholicism today in China?
I think first I want to give thanks to the media, the technology, So, and also can say also thank for the China now open to the world.
So
20 ways.
I want to ask you,
Yes.
You said thank you to the media.
Yes.
Why thank you to the media? What has media done that has allowed the faith to come into China?
Okay. The media, which now, for example, now young people, they are very in China also. We are really the
Yes.
people, like media or not. So usually, I think the Chinese people, they don't believe namely say I'm believe to which church, but the heart of human heart is searching for something spiritually, And now economic way, the financial way, China is
growing.
quite growing.
Yes.
So people not really materially hunger, thirst for that, but the people hunger thirst for the spiritual way, So the young people, they can really look something, and they so easy through the internet, they're looking for something. And the point, the positive way, the message of gospel, sometimes they can download, they can read,
Yes.
So I say the media, also the universal church, through the media, we can so easy to get what is universal church
to spread, yes.
Yes, to see, I think.
Yes.
Like,
the faith today in China is growing. There's a thirst. How would you describe the faith today?
Yes, and I think it's every year we have thousands new people become Catholic, to be baptized, and thank God for that.
Yes.
And I can see they are really growing quite a lot. And church, you just see church and just new church also continuing to be built.
To be built.
Yes. And people, and now even young people, many young people, they just university students, they just freely to talk about their search there. Now I think the gospel message for them is very meaningful. And many of them just easy to accept that, the teaching of the gospel.
How easy is it for you to work are you able to, for example, to wear your habit, or do you have to be not recognizable as a sister? What would be your day-to-day in China working as a sister?
To wear a habit usually is not really like a custom in China, because also maybe we're not for us easy way for us to be present as it, because people not used to this, and they maybe can see you're distant with them, no? But we wear regular clothes for them. But in a certain way, people realize you are a sister, you are, and the people come to contact. And I think in China, the witnesses as a Catholic or Christian, not by the preach much, but the being a Christian, like your life testimony. So something I think our being a Catholic, more than like to preach in a certain way. For them, people attract people, the personality, our openness, our kindness toward, which is, I think, is really to live in the gospel, what Jesus teach us.
Yes.
And that is to get much testimony
to love.
To evangelize.
How can you evangelize? We've spoken about your witness and the witness of simply being, but there's also practical work. There's a day-to-day practical. What is your day-to-day practical work?
Yes, for us, we used to our charism like mass media using, and of course, in our book in China is limited for publishing. But we have like all the access, like technology. For example, in China, we use a handphone. Then handphone, we send a message
by mobile phone?
By mobile phone.
Yes, you're using mobile phones to communicate messages.
Yes. So for example, a feast day, whatever, like even daily gospel, but not whole gospel message, but for example, very important sentences for a day. And then we just let work, like I send to 10%, and 10% each person, send to their friends.
Networks.
Yes. So one day we able to communicate 1,000 people just by simple message. What Jesus,
What Jesus was teaching.
Yes, teaching.
Yes. And this is possible. It's not blocked by the government.
Not very much, but sometimes be blocked. For example, the Vatican site, sometimes we want to see it, but sometimes will be blocked like for a few days, and after can reopen again. So I think the power of media and the government really cannot, or block it completely, because they need all the, you can block my blog, but I can download mine, and through email I send to friends.
Yes.
So this is the way which to get through.
It's what Pope John Paul, or Blessed Pope John Paul said, was to throw into the deep, using the new media as a way of communication. I want to ask you mentioned the underground church, and how is the situation now? Is there reconciliation coming between the underground and the so-called official church? And how is the situation now?
Certain areas still have difficulties for the reconciliation, but I think all of them have this great desire to go, in a one church,
as there should be one church in China. Yes. What do you think that you can learn from the church in the West, and what is it that the Chinese Catholic Church can teach the Universal Church? What is it that the Chinese Church can bring to the Universal Church?
Universal Church give us a lot of support, through so many media, and even the Holy Father give us. Always say that all of you pray for us.
Yes.
That is give us a lot, we are not, struggle alone.
Yes.
The whole church is with us, even the Holy Father or whatever in the church, they always send a message to us. We pray for you, especially when we have something, going on in the church, in China. And then the Universal Church heard that news, the difficulty of China, church in China, immediately send a message of support, prayer. And that means a lot for us, we say we not struggle alone, we are within the whole church.
Yes.
That is. Then the other things just you mentioned, how the Universal Church can learn from China. And I think the church, I don't know how we church in China, we can give a lot to the Universal Church, we are so little and so just come out of, but do have one thing, like our way of evangelization in China, which I think is very positive. Even in a very difficult situations, we try to get in our action, in our life example, even in our very limited way, we just try, to give the message, to let people know Jesus. And I think some people just don't really how to call, even the young people, I just say one example was very cute. 2 years ago, I was with a small group of children, and they, I think elementary school, and I told them, it's Christmas. Why you want to tell me? The students that in the catechism class, they draw their small Christmas card. And every of them, I will give to my classmate in school, just to tell them, Jesus love you, Jesus love you. And this is only 5-10 years children able to do evangelization, So I think just to see, I think all the church, China, the member, even though we are so not very educated much in the faith, because our formation was very poor in certain way. But all of us want to participate in the evangelization.
And it's a heroic faith, Sister. I think you actually have a lot to give to us. I think your faith is a heroic faith, and it's a faith of simplicity, and I think that this is something that for us is very important. So I would like to thank you, Sister, for having been with us today in our program.
Thank you for your invitation.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us today on our program. And if you'd like to know more about the story of Catholics in China, I would encourage you to look at the contact information at the end of this program. And I would also encourage you to pray for Sister Maria and all of those sisters who are working to spread the message of Christ in China. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.